Hello students, welcome back to the course on operations management, and in this lecture we are going to discuss about PERT and the project crashing. These are all the two topics that we are going to discuss. We have spoken about PERT in our last session briefly, and we are going to use it or understand it through an illustration. Before that, let us recap what we learnt about PERT. PERT is, we know that, program evaluation and review technique, and unlike the critical path method, this uses 3 times: the optimistic time, the pessimistic time, and the most likely time. Optimistic time estimate is something which we say that if everything goes as per our plan, then we will meet that day, that time. Pessimistic time is the one wherein none of the activities that we planned will go as per the time, as per the plan, and we will invariably end up with an extended lead time. And most likely time is something that is more realistic time estimate. We need to compute the expected activity time using these 3 times: the optimistic time, the pessimistic time, and the most likely time, using the formula like this. Optimistic time plus 4 times most likely time and the pessimistic time, all divided by 6. Why do we use this? Because we assume that this pattern will follow a beta distribution. We will explain this in the next slide. This time T, the expected activity time, will be used to complete the earlier start, early finish, later start, late finish, etc., like the way in which we did for the critical path method, and rest of the processes are the same. We can compute the variance in PERT using this formula: the pessimistic time less the optimistic time divided by 6 whole square, because we assume that this form follows a normal distribution, and B less A divided by 6 gives you the sigma, and square of it is the variance. The project variance will be the sum of all activity variances on the critical path. We'll understand as to how to use this variance, the project variance, and the standard deviation using this formula. What is a beta distribution? If you look at the beta distribution, looks several ways, but this is the one that we can fairly assume to be the case in a PERT situation. For example, you have a supplier and he is supplying you a particular component. You go and ask him as to what will be your lead time to supply this. He tells you that most of the time I will supply you at 10 days, within 10 days. On the 10th day I will supply you. Fortunately, if everything goes well, then I should be able to supply you within, say, 7 days. But at an unfortunate event, if things are not going as per the plan, then I may supply you within, say, 15 days. Suppose he gives you a spread like this: most of the time I will give you within 10 days, and everything goes well, then I should be able to give you in 7 days, and if things don't go well, then I should be able to give you 15 days and nothing more than that. When he gives you a statement like this, you need to estimate the most likely time that or the standard time that you should you should get that material from the supplier. What you will do is that you will allocate a weightage of 4 times to this most likely time, a weightage of 1 for the optimistic time, and the weightage of 1 for the pessimistic time. When you do that, what exactly you do? 10 multiplied by 4 plus the optimistic time of 7 and the pessimistic time of 15, all divided by 6, which is 40 plus 7 plus 15 divided by 6, which is 47, 57, 62 divided by 6, which is approximately 10 days. You will normally find that 10 point something. Okay, you will normally find that the most the standard time that you will arrive at after computing this will be towards the center, because you are giving the maximum weightage of 4 and this whole spread is 6 sigma. So this way you find the standard time using the beta distribution. Okay, you may ask, why should I assume that it is 4 and this is 1 and 1? Why can't I assume that this is 5 and this is 0.5 and 0.5? This has been proved several times using a large amount of population, and it has been found that it is following a beta distribution. So if your supplier is not giving as per this, the whatever you have completed as the standard time, then I think you should go and ask him to estimate it properly rather than changing the formula, because this has been proven. Okay, so now we know how to compute the standard time using the optimistic, pessimistic and the most likely time. Let us look at this example. Okay, this illustration gives you a set of activities here, A to K, and it gives you the optimistic time A, the pessimistic time B, and the most likely time M. Okay, using this we need to work out the whole problem. First thing that you need to do when you get a PERT problem is that you need to find the standard time, which we know the formula is, in this case, suppose we need to compute this. How did we get this 5.8? 3 plus 4 times 6 plus 8 divided by 6 will be 5.8, and in the case of 3.7 it will be 2 plus 4 times 4 plus 4 divided by 6. You will get 3.7. This way we need to find out. Now we have computed the standard time T for all the activities, and once you get this list of standard time and the list of activity and also the predecessors, the immediate predecessors, you will be able to construct the network diagram, and you will be able to find the critical path, finally finding the project lead time. I have done all that for you, and it is reported as 36 days. With this, what is it we will do next? Let's see. You have this project lead time as 36 days, which means that the center is 36 days. Here, if you, and we also assume that this this project variance, okay, we are talking about the project variance, will follow a normal distribution. We are not talking here about the time estimates. We are talking about the project variance, and we know we assume that this follows a normal distribution. There are two assumptions that we make in a PERT analysis. One is the variance, the project variance assumes a normal distribution, and the second one is the activities are independent of the other. Okay, if there is if something happens in A does not affect B, not in terms of the time but in terms of the other factors. So each of the activities are independent is what we assume, and also we assume that the project variance is as per the normal distribution. Now we have computed the project lead time to be 36 days, which means that the center is 36 days. Okay. Now we have also computed the variance using the formula. What is the formula for variance? We have seen here B minus A by 6 the whole square is the variance formula. Here how did we find the variance? B minus A, which means that 8 minus 3 divided by 6 the whole square, 5 divided by 6 the whole square, okay, which is 0.7. Same way we find the variance for each of the activities, and to find the total variance, you need to simply add not all the variances, the variance of the critical path only. Here I have not listed the critical path, but after adding them I get a variance, a project variance of 5.2. What does this mean? What does this 5.2 mean? Let's understand. Now we go to look at the normal distribution, and we have found that this is 36 days, and variance is square root of sigma, square of sigma. So when you want to find the sigma, you have to simply take the root of variance. We know 5.2 is the variance, so sigma will be 5.2 square root, which is something like, I think, 2.3. Okay, let us for the convenience, let us assume it to be 2. Okay, just for the sake of our working. 2 is the standard deviation, which means that if the mean is at 36 days, then the total variance of the project can be 3 times this time, 3 times sigma on this side and 3 times sigma on the other side. 3 times 2 is 6, and here also it is 6. So the total project variance, this dispersion can be from 30 days to 42 days is what we know. Now we say that it is most likely to get completed within 36 days. We also know that it can vary between 30 to 42 days. But this variance looks to be too high for me. How do I know that? What is the best chance? Maybe 80% or 85%. What will be my chance of completing the project? What will be the number of days? You have here 84. Suppose you take this 84, and this is 1 sigma. You know, 1 sigma is equal to 2. So 36 plus 2 is equal to 38 days. So you can say that this project will get completed within 38 days. 85% of the time you have a 85% chance that this project will get completed within 38 days. Is this clear? Well, I am just explaining very quickly again that we have found the project lead time through a CPM route that 36 days it will take to complete the project, which is the center point. Okay, that is the mean, 36 days. And we have also computed the variance. The variance formula is known to us. We have computed the variance for all the activities. And to understand the project variance, we need to simply add all the activities on the critical path. The variance of all the activities falling on the critical path, if you sum it up, you will get the project variance, and we have found this to be 5.2. Square root of variance is sigma. So square root of 5.2 is, say, 2.3. We assume it to be 2 for the sake of our understanding here. And if the sigma is 2, you know that the normal distribution feature is that around the mean, both sides, it will have a dispersion of 3 sigma. To the left it will have a dispersion of 3 sigma, and to the right it will have the dispersion of 3 sigma. If you take that 99.9%, the entire area will be covered. Now we know that our standard deviation is 2. So if you take 3 sigma to the left and 3 sigma to the right, you will take 6 days to the left and 6 days to the right. That means that the total project variability or the dispersion will be from 30 days to 42 days. With this, you will be able to understand that this project is going to take 36 days normally. But in an eventuality, it can vary between 30 and 42 days. It will not go beyond that, is what we will know. Now you want to know that this is a very large span, and I want to know what is the possibility that my project will be completed at 85% confidence level. Suppose you say that 85% of the time my project will be completed how many days? If you want to know that, you know that 85% falls at the first sigma to the right. So 36 plus 2 days, because 2 is the first sigma. So 36 plus 2 is equal to 38. So 38 days is what it will take. 85% of the time, that 85% confidence is there that it will be completed within 38 days. You want to know that? No, I want to know that it is 98%, then it will be 2 sigma, which will be 36 plus 2 into sigma, which is 4. So 40 days you have a chance that 98% chance that it will be completed within 40 days. So this is how you will use the computation. Okay. Now let us move on to another topic called crashing a project. We have understood a project. We have understood how to construct a network diagram, how to relate the activities. We have also understood as to how to identify the critical path in a project, both in the situation wherein you just get one standard time, or if you get a multiple standard time like the optimistic time, pessimistic time, etc., like a PERT. In both the cases, you know how to identify the critical path, the activities that are lying on the critical path. If there is a delay in the critical path, the entire project will get delayed. And you also now know that what is the possibility that I can complete the project on time with a variation of say 80%, 60%, 90%, etc. Okay. Now let us get into a situation wherein you have done the entire project management program. Your boss comes and tells you that yes, I understand that you have completed the planning, and you are saying that the project will be completed within 36 days. On a particular day, say for example 15th of February is what the project will be completed. Say it is an inauguration of a particular facility in your plant. That is what you are working at. But your boss says that 15th of February will not be suitable because the chairman is visiting the organizations 2 days prior to that. Say 13th of February is what the chairman is visiting. Can you advance the project by 2 days? What do you need to do to advance it by 2 days is what he says. The chairman cannot change his schedule. He is coming here on 13th and he is going to inaugurate the facility. So I want you to crash the project by 2 days is what your boss says. Now you have to find out what is the best way of doing this. What will you do? You will look at every activity and then see what can you do faster and reduce the time. When you want to do something faster, either you will go for additional resources in terms of manpower, or you will outsource it or do something like that. Whatever it is, when you try to crash a project, it is going to result in an escalated cost. Okay, so we need to consider for crashing a project from a given time to a given time, how much of money will be spent. If you can optimize this additional cost, that is the best crashing project plan. That is what we are going to understand here. A project may have to be crashed if the project completion date is advanced. Not necessary that project is running late. The project is running on time, but for certain other reasons, you have to crash the project. Okay, that is what is called crashing of project. You have to advance the project. That is what is known as crashing the project. The activities on the critical paths only qualify for crashing, because you know that any change in the critical path will impact the project lead time, both sides, extending it or advancing it. If you try to work on a non-critical path, it will not result in a reduction or increase in the overall project lead time. So you will identify the activities which are lying on the critical path for crashing a project. Within the critical path also, there may be certain activities which can never be crashed. For example, you are doing a heat treatment, okay, or if you are doing, the construction is going on and it requires a certain amount of curing for the foundation. Can you do something by to crash it? Can you put some fire into that place and then try to dry it faster? No, it has to take that sort of a time to cure properly. So there are certain activities, though they are falling in the critical path, you cannot crash them because of their nature. such activities you cannot do anything about it, so you have to just ignore them. You need to only identify the paths, the activities which fall on the critical path and that can be crashed even by spending additional resource. Crashing costs additional resource. That's what we have seen. For example, if you have to get certain equipment from somewhere, you can get it by road, you can get it by air, by several means you can get it. So if you decide to advance it and then if you decide to move it by air, then obviously it is going to cost you more. Crashing at the least cost is the optimum decision. So when we do a project on crashing, computation on crashing a project, we need to look at a solution that will be of least cost. Each activity on critical path is computed for the least crash cost, and then iteratively you have to decide the total project cost, the escalation. The least escalation is the one that you need to adhere to. Let us do it with a simple illustration. Here is the list of activities. Okay, you see there are list of activities from A to G. The normal time is given. Okay, say these are all weeks. The normal time is given and the crash time is also given. You see, activity A can be crashed from 4 to 3. Activity B can be crashed from 2 to 1. Activity C cannot be crashed at all. It will remain at 3. So even if activity C remains in the critical path, you cannot crash it. Okay, so is the case. There are several other activities like D can be crashed from 8 to 4. It can be crashed substantially from 8 to 4 this way. So next you are given the normal cost. Normal cost is something if for activity A which takes 4 weeks to complete, the cost will be 2000 say rupees. You can crash it to 3 weeks, but your cost will increase from 2000 to 2600, which means that there is an escalation of 600 rupees for that 1 week of crash. Okay, it is okay. Let us assume that it is dollars, $600 to crash from 4 to 3 weeks. In the case of activity B, it can be crashed from 2 to 1. But your cost will escalate from 2200 to 2800. This way all the costs are given. Now the total time is 16 weeks is what is computed. Again, based on this time, the predecessors, etc., we have computed the critical path, and the critical path is A, D, G. A, D and G is the critical path. Okay. And we have found that the time is 16 weeks. What is expected is that we need to reduce the 16 weeks to 15 weeks, which means that we have to crash it by 1 week. Which activity should we crash is what we should find out. Look at the crash cost per week. Okay, this is the total absolute cost is given. We are computing the crash cost per week. How will you compute? From 4 to 3, if you have to reduce, it becomes from 2000 to 2600. So for 1 week of change, the increase or the escalation is 600. So this is crash cost per week. Here also from 2 to 1, the increase in the cost is $600. Here there cannot be any possibility for crashing. And here if you see from 8 to 4, it escalates from 2700 to 2600. So $300 is what is increasing for over 4 weeks. 4 weeks, which means that per week it is $75. So that is what is given here. The same way we compute the crashing cost for all the activities, and we know that we can crash only activity A, D or G. We cannot the other activities need not be crashed because they are not in the critical path. Now what we do is that we are going to crash. By just looking at it, you will know that which is the activity that can be crashed by 1 week with the least cost. Not this, not this, not this, not this, not this. The 75 is the one which has got the least escalation cost. Okay, least escalation of $75. And we can crash this D from 8 to 7. From 8 to 7. And this is also falling on the critical path. So how will you do that? You need to first look at the crash cost per unit time. Look at the activity that has got the least escalation. Look at that activity, is it falling within the critical path? And also look at it whether it is possible to crash it or not. If all these conditions satisfy, then you go ahead and crash it. So the D gets crashed from 8 weeks to 7 weeks, and when you do that, what happens? Your cost escalates from 2300 to 2375. Right? All other cost remains the same. So the total escalation, project escalation will be just $75. So instead of 12,300, this will become $12,375. So this is how you do it. But this is a very simple illustration I have taken. In a more complex situation, you may find that the escalation, the crashing is not just 1 week but several weeks. In that case, you need to do it iteratively. First, you need to crash one activity, and when you crash an activity, your critical path may get changed. So whenever you crash an activity, you need to go back to find out the critical path. Because if this eats away the slack of another activity, then that activity will become critical. You understand? So every time you crash an activity, you need to go back to the fundamentals. You need to compute again the critical path and see that this critical path remains the same. If in the process you find that an additional activity has become critical and there is one more critical path, then just by reducing the activity lead time in this critical path, it will not be sufficient. You need to look at that critical path also. Okay, so in a real situation, this becomes a little complex. There are softwares which are available to do it in a very complex situation, but for most of our business activities, we should be able to do it with an amount of iteration, and over a period, by practice, you will be able to do it much faster. With this, I complete the lecture on project management. Thanks for listening.